a story about how consistency quietly shapes destiny. There is a quiet truth about success that most people misunderstand. Many believe that success belongs to the most talented person in the room, the one with the brightest ideas, the strongest skills, or the loudest confidence. But if you look closely at the lives of people who truly achieve something meaningful, you will notice something surprising. Very often they are not the most talented. They are simply the ones who kept going when others stopped. Tonight, let me tell you a story about a young man who believed he lacked talent until a simple lesson showed him the quiet power of consistency. In a small coastal town where fishing boats rocked gently against the docks, lived a young man named Elias. Elias worked in a small shop that repaired old lanterns for fishermen. Every evening, the harbor filled with golden lights as hundreds of lanterns flickered across the dark water. But Elias never felt proud of the work he did. To him, it was just another job. Something temporary, something small. Deep inside his heart, Elias dreamed of doing something greater. He wanted to become an inventor. He imagined creating machines that would change people's lives. He filled notebooks with ideas, strange devices, creative tools, wild inventions that only existed in his imagination. But there was always one problem. Elias never finished anything he started. One week he worked passionately on a design for a fishing net machine. The next week he abandoned it. Another time he tried building a small engine. After 3 days he lost interest. Sometimes he blamed a lack of time. Sometimes he blamed his lack of talent. But most often he simply said, "I'll finish it later." Weeks passed. Months passed. And Elias slowly began to believe a dangerous thought. Maybe he just wasn't meant to succeed. One evening, after a long day of work, Elias walked along the harbor. The sky was turning dark blue. The sound of waves echoed softly against the wooden docks. As he walked, he noticed something unusual. At the far end of the pier sat an old man working under a dim lantern. Curious, Elias stepped closer. The old man was carving a piece of wood, but the strange part was this: the man had only a small knife. The wood he was carving looked thick and stubborn, yet slowly, carefully, the old man shaped it into a beautiful lantern frame. Elias watched for several minutes. The movements were slow, steady, patient. Finally, Elias asked, "Sir, how long have you been working on that lantern?" The old man looked up and smiled. "About 6 months." Elias blinked in surprise. 6 months, just for one lantern?" The old man chuckled. "No." He pointed to a shelf beside him. There were dozens of finished lanterns there. "I make one small piece every day." Elias frowned. "But wouldn't it be faster to finish it all at once?" The old man shook his head gently. "Most people believe big results come from big effort." Then he lifted the lantern frame and said, "But real mastery comes from small effort repeated many times." Elias looked at the knife in the old man's hand. It seemed far too small for the job. "Doesn't that knife feel too weak for this work?" Elias asked. The old man laughed softly. "This knife alone is weak." He tapped the wood gently. "But time and repetition make even a weak tool powerful." Then he added one sentence Elias would never forget. "Talent may begin a journey, but consistency is what carries it across the finish line." That night, Elias could not stop thinking about those words. Consistency. Small effort repeated every day. He returned home and opened one of his old notebooks. Page after page of unfinished ideas stared back at him. Machines, tools, sketches, dreams that had never become real. For the first time, Elias saw the truth clearly. It wasn't that he lacked talent. He simply never stayed long enough with one idea to let it grow. So that night, he made a quiet decision. Instead of chasing many inventions, he would focus on one single idea. a lantern design that could burn longer and brighter for fishermen. But this time, he would follow a different rule. Every day he would work on the lantern for just 30 minutes. No excuses, no skipping days, no waiting for motivation. Just 30 minutes. The first few days felt exciting. Elias worked enthusiastically. He adjusted the fuel chamber. He redesigned the airflow. He experimented with glass shapes. But after a week, the excitement faded. Some evenings he felt tired after work. Some mornings he doubted the idea. And once again, the familiar voice whispered inside his mind, "Maybe this isn't worth it." But then he remembered the old man. 1 piece a day, 6 months, dozens of lanterns. So Elias kept going, even on the days when he felt uninspired, even on the days when progress seemed invisible. 30 minutes, every day. Weeks passed, then months. Something quiet began to happen. Elias noticed his designs improving. Small problems that once confused him now seemed simple. His hands became steadier. His ideas became clearer. The lanterns slowly took shape, not through sudden brilliance, but through hundreds of small adjustments. One evening, nearly a year later, Elias finally finished the prototype. He lit the lantern. The flame burned strong, bright, stable, and it lasted longer than any lantern in the harbor. The fishermen were amazed. Soon, many of them came to Elias asking for the same lantern. The small shop that once repaired lanterns now began producing them. Word spread to nearby towns, then to distant ports, and before long, Elias became known as the young craftsman who created the most reliable lanterns along the coast. But whenever people asked how he invented such a brilliant design, Elias would simply smile and say, "It wasn't brilliance. It was 30 minutes a day." Years later, Elias returned to the same pier where he had first met the old lantern maker. The old man was still there, still carving, still working slowly beneath a lantern. Elias walked over and placed one of his new lanterns beside him. The old man studied it carefully. Then he smiled. "You finally understood." Elias nodded. "Yes." Then he said quietly, "I used to think success required something extraordinary, but now I know something different. Extraordinary results often come from ordinary actions repeated long enough." The old man laughed warmly. "Exactly. So if you take only one lesson from this story, let it be this. Success rarely arrives in a single dramatic moment. It grows quietly, slowly, almost invisibly. It grows through the pages you write every day, the skills you practice every day, the discipline you keep, even when motivation disappears. Like drops of water shaping stone, or a lantern carved piece by piece. Your small, consistent actions are shaping your future right now. And one day when you look back, you may realize that the greatest changes in your life were never sudden. They were built day by day, quietly, patiently, until the impossible became real. If this story made you reflect on your own journey, write the word consistency in the comments, because sometimes the most powerful change in life begins with one simple decision to show up again tomorrow. And if you enjoy stories that inspire growth, wisdom, and quiet strength, subscribe to the channel. More stories are coming, stories that might just change the way you see your life.